Okay, today class, we are moving on from our geometry unit to working with going into our real number system and going to be plotting them on a number line based on the characteristics of the number. So you have this page from the door. You need to be listening to this video and only this video. So turn off any other background music, videos, or anything else you're watching, and so turn that off and listen to my beautiful, wonderful voice. I promise I'll try to keep this short so you get to work. Um, our goal is going to be, we're going to convert these fractions to decimals and percents, which you guys, I know you've done, but it's been a while. And you're going to be doing it without a calculator. You need to know how to do some of these things without a calculator. So let me just back up for a second and talk about your fractions. This is where the other day, some of the classes, I was able to get you guys up at the board and do some division, and some people were confused on what number you're dividing. So let's first of all, let's break down again what a fraction is. Now you don't have this paper, but I found this to kind of break down again what a fraction is. Sorry about that shadow. Okay, so the whole thing about a fraction represents a part. Usually the fraction's between 0 and 1, but not always. A mixed number is when you're larger than 1. But let's talk about this. This number line 0 to 1, and notice these number lines are all the same in the sense of the distance. This is representing one whole, this distance. And what's happening here is that this one is divided into two sections. That's your denominator. And then this amount here, this is representing 1 out of the 2. So this is half. So this distance here is just half of this 1. So here we have, don't ever count the tick marks, count the spaces. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 spaces. Now this distance, what we want to know from 0 to this distance, well, that's 3 out of the 4. So 3/4. And so 3/4 out of 1. So your value of 3/4 is going to be less than 1. Okay, so this one, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Out of 6 intervals, or out of 6 segments, how far is this one? Well, that's going to be 5. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I am not counting the tick marks. Do not count those. It's the spaces. Now 5, 6. Now notice between the two, which is greater? Well, 5, 6 is closer to 1 than 3/4. Sometimes people can see that, sometimes they can't. So this is why on the other sheet, I'm going to teach you, remind you how to change it to decimals, because sometimes it's a little bit easier to recognize as a decimal to put them in order, but not always. All right, so this one, notice the spaces are larger, so we have 1, 2, 3. We only sectioned it off into 3 sections, and we are stopping at the end of the first one. So we have the numerator's 1, denominator's 3. Notice this 1/3. Look at the distance compared to everything else we've done. Well, so far this is smaller than everything else. This distance of 1/3 is less than 5, 6, less than 3/4, and less than 1/2. This one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and how far is this? 3/8. Well, 3/8, look how close that is to 1/3. So sometimes putting those on a number line, sometimes it's easier to change to a decimal to know exactly which one is smaller. And then this last one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now visually you could probably tell what this is, but we're just verifying. So we have out of 6 increments, out of 6 spaces, this is 1, 2, 3, and it's 3, 6. Now if you notice, going straight up, yes, that is exactly 1/2. So when we work with these, it'd be simpler to go ahead and reduce that to 1/2. And then you pretty much know where that's going to be on a number line. Now here's another tip before we go to our decimals. I want you to look at their numerator compared to your denominator. Your numerator compared to your denominator. Your numerator compared to your denominator. And look where it is on the number line. Is it closer to 0, closer to half, or closer to 1? Your numerator and your denominator, notice this is, well, half, obviously. So it's going to be right in the half. But that 3/4, that's pretty close. That 3 is real close to 4. So that's going to be closer to 1 than it is 0. 5, 6, that's going to be closer to 1 than it is to 0. 1/3, well, that's not too far, but that's 1 is, it's not quite half. So 1's going to be closer to 0. Now 3/8. 3/8, this is close to 4 over 8. So that's going to be closer to 1/2. 3/6 is 1/2. The thing I want to caution you about is that notice that 5 is just less 1 than 6 and 3 is 1 less than 4. Just because that happens doesn't mean they're equal. So this is why I'm having you convert them to decimals, and then you're going to start noticing something on some of the denominators that you can actually then start seeing a pattern. So if you read through this, you're going to do it without a calculator, and I want you to show the work on the paper. If this is not enough, get another piece of paper and staple it to it. But here's the deal. I know there's going to be some that you're probably going to know the decimal equivalents right away. 1/2, I expect you to know that 5/10. If you don't, you can always divide it out. But here's the deal. If you have all of these and you say, oh yeah, I know them all by memory, I'm going to quiz you on it because I guarantee you don't know 9/16 by memory. I know you don't. So I'll quiz you if you have no work shown and you say, oh yeah, I can do it. I'll give you fractions to prove in front of me. Just beware. Also, we're going to only convert the starred problems to percents because once you get that concept, you don't have to change them all to percents because we don't need them all in percents. If the answer repeats, then use the repeating sign over the digits. So for example, if you're getting a repeating, let's say it's repeating, I don't know if this is going to happen, but 3, 6, 3, 6, and it keeps repeating, use the repeating sign over the numbers that are repeating. Don't keep writing it. Don't write this. That drives me crazy. This 3 is repeating, so I might as well repeat that. You're going to have to divide it out a couple times to see if it repeats, but use the repeating sign for that, and then you don't need these other numbers. Okay? All right, so we're going to do a few of these together. First of all, 9/11. Now, just logically think about that number. Well, 9 is pretty close to 11, so that number, is that going to be closer to 0, 1/2, or 1? Well, it's going to be closer to 1. Okay? Now, how to actually get the decimal, you're going to put that 9, you're going to put that inside, and your 11 on the outside. Now, here's what I'd like to do. Your decimal's behind your 9 here, but then you don't always write it. Write it here. I like to put mainly 2 zeros. Sometimes I need more, but I always start with 2. You bring your decimal straight up. This is a whole number, so you don't have to move decimals at all. Now, just 11 into 90. Well, that's going to be 8. That's going to be 88. That's going to be 2. That's 10. 90 minus 88 is 2. Bring down the 0. That's 11 into 20. Okay, so that is going to be 1. 20 minus 11 is 9. I'm going to bring another 0. That's 90. Okay, do you notice something here? You notice that it's starting to repeat. Okay, so this answer, and I like a 0 here, this final answer is going to be this. And in fact, I should have made a box. So this final answer is going to be 81/100ths repeating. That might be helpful if you make a little box yourself. I apologize for not doing that. So then that is the final answer here, and that's not starred, so I don't need to turn that into a percent. What about this one? Now 3/4. 3/4, you might know this as a decimal right away. If you don't, then 3 divided by 4, that's what a fraction bar is. You're saying division. So it's 3 divided by 4. 4 goes into 30 7 times. 30 minus 28 is 20. 4 goes into 25 times. That's a terminating decimal. It means it stops, it ends, it's the terminator. So then your final answer is 75/100ths. Now it's a star, so it's 75/100ths. And then as a percent, it's going to be 75%. So as a percent means out of 100, you're going to move your decimal 2 places to the right. If it's repeating and you have to move your decimal 2 places to the right, just do to the nearest tenth maybe. So that would be 81.8%. So because this is like 81, 81, 81 over and over, so just move it over maybe to the nearest tenth of a percent. Okay. All right. So you're going to go through and you're going to divide. I do know you got to watch this one. I'm going to actually, well, no, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do this one with you. I'm going to save you a little bit. So 9 divided by 16. I'm going to put 2 zeros. Okay. 16 doesn't go into 9, but 16 goes into 90. Now, I don't know right at the top of my head, but let's try something. Well, I know 20 times 5 is 100. So let's try 16 times 5. Well, 16 times 5 is 80. And I know I can't do another 16, so this is going to be 5. 16 times 5 is 80. 90 minus 80 is 10. Bring down the 100, or the 0 here for 100. 16 into 100. Well, if 16 times 5 is 80, I know I can get another 16 in here one more time for 96. So 16 times 6 is 96, and that's going to be 4. 16 into 40 is going to be 2. 32, that's going to be 8. Look at that. It's not even repeating yet. Oh, wait. Yeah, maybe. No. So 16 into 80 is 5. So sometimes we have to go maybe 4 spaces for it to terminate. So in this case, this terminated or repeated. And in fact, all your fractions here, all of them are going to be terminating or repeating of some sort. So we will show you that. Now notice how long that is. That's not starred, so I kept going. I did stop. I would say after the 4th or 5th one, if that happens, then you could just stop maybe at the thousands. But yes, I wanted to do that one with you. So this one turned out, make sure I did that right. I thought it'd last longer. That's okay. Okay, now, so watch the starred ones. When you finish this, so yes, there is quite a few, but it's good practice. Watch the ones that are over your numerator is larger your denominator. You are going to get a whole number and then a decimal. Then I want you to answer these questions. I want you to start looking back and do you start seeing a pattern? Do you see a pattern when you're dividing by 9? Do you see a pattern by 11? Okay, are there any fractions that produce the same decimal equivalency, meaning that the exact same decimal? Which ones and why did that happen? Okay. All right, so that is what you are doing today. Make sure you do show your work. Again, if this is not enough room, put it on another piece of paper because I know some of you write a little bit larger. But if you could write your final answer here. Again, most of them, maybe a few of them you might know by heart. Maybe the 10ths, I can see that. The 3rd, possibly the 3rd. But some of these you will not. I know you won't. Okay, get to work.